Hello, everybody. I'm Candid Stanisci of CFL Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download the app, make sure you rate, leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on smart TVs 2016 forward. And don't forget to subscribe to Candid Stanisci 1030 on YouTube. And you can watch all the CFL shows that we do. There's other stuff we do as well, but CFL if that's what you're interested. So now on CFL Talk, joining me as usual is the brains of the operation, David Morassutti. David, how you doing?
We're doing well, Frank. Doing well. Football is nearing. CFL,
Yes,
I should say, is nearing its return. So it's an exciting month for sure.
absolutely. We got a request for accreditation. That's
Yeah.
always nice. I had our big meeting with the Football Writers of Canada, and they roped me into being on a committee. I don't know how happy I am about that, but it's up my alley. It's a podcast sort of committee to try and figure out what's going on with podcasts in the Canadian Football League. But more importantly, what's going on with the Canadian Football League is there are schools that are associated with greatness in the Canadian Football League that have a deep history. One of them is Simon Fraser University. Recently, unfortunately, I guess would be fair to say, the school was talking about dropping, and they've considered, and they dropped the football program. Joining us now is Mark Bailey. He's a Simon Fraser University Alumni Society member. Mark, sad news when I heard it. Your school is deep in football history, and it must have been a shock when you heard it.
Absolutely. Thank you right from the beginning for having me here.
Our pleasure.
Deep history, of course, with the school. A lot of esteemed alumni with much better resumes than I can say about myself. And I have the privilege in which I get to serve our Alumni Society as our president. The news came just over 4 weeks ago, and since that bombshell was dropped, we've had an immense amount of supporters and people behind the scenes, from obviously players and their parents and families to our alumni to, wearing BC Lions hat, Mr. Amar Doman, who's been so graciously supportive, financially stepping up and verbally stepping up. The commissioner of the CFL, Mr. Ambrosi, grassroots football over the country, other university football programs, political leaders, from provincial leadership to national leadership to local mayors to all amounts of people with their arms up asking why. So the question has been asked over and over and over, and the answers in which that we got are confusing, to say the least. So it obviously has a lot of people concerned, and to that point, if it can happen to us, who else can it happen to? And we've been very, very appreciative for all the support that's come in to help these student athletes and their families find hopefully their path back to their journeys with football at Simon Fraser.
The last setup question I'm going to ask David, and then you jump in. Football in British Columbia, is something that is underestimated in as far as its popularity within the province. You have a junior football league there. Andrew Harris played there. So not to take away from, from your school, but I'm talking about football in general in British Columbia is very popular. So this strikes, it's like a shot to the family, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. So, my own personal fabric, I actually competed against Andrew Harris in the junior football ranks. And unbeknownst to most people, Andrew Harris attended SFU football training camp in 2009. And, to mention, that gentleman's name, that is just one byproduct of, the many, many successful football players that come from this province. And, football is growing here. The amount of players that are registered in high school football here is growing substantially. In addition to that, Simon Fraser University produces, a lot of contributing members to the community that give back to coaching, whether it be high school football and or community football or as well, obviously, just volunteering in general in many different community settings. So to cut the legs out, from this program is quite disruptive to the ecosystem of this province. And really, and in my opinion and many others, is that if this isn't rectified, you may not see the immediate impact on as large of a scale as you will eventually in years to come, because we won't be producing individuals that'll obviously be giving back to community, and we won't have that same ecosystem in which we have young competitive athletes aspiring to get to where they would like to be. And you cut out 50% from the province. It's a disservice to British Columbia.
David.
And we also have to think about the students and all this, the ones that were planning their futures, right, the next 4 years, and then to have that all kind of just taken away from them in a blink of, a snap of a finger. I'm sure that's probably been the toughest part of this whole situation. Like, how has the reception been like from the students, not just the news, but the reaction and the support that they've been receiving the last few weeks?
So, I want to give the student athletes specifically, at the football program, a lot of credit and kudos to them. They've been very mature about, what they've been having to go through. And from what I've witnessed and understood is that they've, remained true to the process in which they're committed to seeing this thing through, in which they'll have an opportunity, hopefully, to compete again for Simon Fraser University football this year. But at the same time, too, our student athletes have rallied with other students on campus. So the Simon Fraser Student Society, as well as many other student groups, they've been supportive of the program. They've written to the university president. They've written to the board of governors. They've stood up on social media platforms. Like, we've got tens of thousands of views of these groups in which that are there and standing with the football populace to make sure in which they are heard, and that they feel the support.
And also at a time where the Canadian universities as a whole should be offering more opportunities, not taking away opportunities. If you look at some of the schools that have done well, you can see how much they support their teams versus the programs that certainly struggle. So this is definitely not the time for schools to not only be cutting programs, but to even just reduce funding in general.
Agreed. And, what I will say is essentially Simon Fraser University's fabric is really about inclusion and engagement and diversity. And when you cut, one of the biggest programs in the university, whether it be academic, and or athletic, this is probably one of the biggest diverse groups of populaces working towards a common goal. What is Simon Fraser University saying by doing that, with not engaging with any key stakeholders, not providing any inclusion prior, and just having a decision made without anybody being a part of it? So it's again, alluding to what I said earlier, quite confusing.
Help us understand now the process to revive the program, because essentially what you're doing is you're almost, from what I read anyway, from what I understand, you're almost starting from scratch again.
So there's a lot of different layers to this. So, we filed a legal injunction, and, that was a process in which that we needed to follow, in which we can ensure and guarantee that we would get in front of the university, whether it be their legal team, or the university itself, to carry forth the conversation. We did that last Monday. Now, with regards to that, that's just kind of one approach. We sent a proposal to the university 2 Thursdays ago, and originally gave a deadline of, I believe it was 28 hours for a reply. And, in my opinion, I don't think anybody wants to see students or student athletes take their university to court and have to fight them, with a legal battle. So we had attempted to resolve things with essentially them confirming and committing to what we're asking. And what we were confirming and asking was that they would commit to an independent schedule in which that our group of committees had put together and confirmed with other universities across Canada and the United States, as well as commit to applying to U Sport with the Canada West for the 2024 season as well as the NEIA, in which we are in good standing and we are accredited, in which Simon Fraser University competed for the vast majority of its existence. So what was discussed with Simon Fraser and our alumni society was that NCAA Division II, specific to the Lone Star Conference, is not a viable option moving forward. And we had agreed upon that after 2023, in which we knew that it's not realistic. We ended up in that conference due to the GNAC conference folding, in which we had a bunch of other teams. And unfortunately, many of them departed.
Can we expand on that before you move, Mark? Because some may be aware, some may not be aware. What we're talking about is university college football in the U.S. Your school was unique in this country that you actually played in the U.S. colleges versus
Correct.
them.
The only
Talk,
university to
talk
do
a
so.
little bit about that, and I know it's gone now, but just to explain what attempt was made there, to why it was felt it was a good idea, and why you think it failed, and how it shouldn't impact on the existence of Simon Fraser University football.
Well, it depends on how deep we want to go. So we joined the NC2A Div 2 in 2010. Many student athletes were a part of that transition, in which they were unable or unpermitted to compete in NCAA based on the grandfather rule of having NCAA, you have typically 4 years, U Sport, you have 5. So we had a lot of university athletes in their 5th year. So when they entered the NCAA, we actually went in with not really a lot of senior leadership on the team compared to what they had previously. Through their existence in the NCAA, we've had a lot of transitions with coaches. Just to the point, as of lately, we've had 3 different head coaches in the last 5 years, and that's been consistent really since we've been in the NCAA. So we have not had much success, unfortunately. But at the same time, too, what transpired when we entered this Lone Star Conference, which is all Texas and New Mexico. So you can imagine how hard and heavy it can be for these student athletes with their academics. Not a lot of direct flights, a lot of long buses after you get off a flight. It weighs on you. In addition to that, it's not consistent flights. So, you might fly in on a Friday for a Saturday game, and you don't fly out till Sunday night. You get stuck in an airport for 18 hours. Things like that never existed, for if not ever, just for a long time. So with this conference, we had a 2-year agreement, which we knew, 2022, 2023. And after that, we was under our understanding that the university would be looking for other viable options. Now, what people likely don't know is that you can't just immediately apply to the U Sports and or NEIA and get acceptance. You need to have X amount of other competitive varsity teams, X amount of male and X amount of female as well. So to basically be accepted. So with our application, if we were to switch to another athletic association, we need to write either a letter of appeal or a special letter of acceptance. Now, we've had communications, with U Sport, Canada West, NEIA, and that process has not been explored by the university, and they've admitted that they haven't explored it because they say it is too difficult to attempt. Now, we've said, why can't you not try? Why can't you not just attempt to see what'll transpire? We've had good, healthy conversations with each athletic association, and we believe there is an opportunity in which we may be granted special acceptance and permission to return to Canada and compete against Canadian talent and or find our way into the NEIA. Now, with 2023, our university essentially contacted the NC2A and said, hey, we're not coming down there. We're not playing. Unbeknownst to everybody. So with that being said, our alumni just got on the phone and called everyone and essentially started recruiting a schedule. So with what we've been able to at least confirm from what we understand, we could potentially play the most interesting university football schedule in the history of the sport. We've got games that would be lined up with U Sport teams in all different conferences across U Sport, not just the Canada West, Ontario, Quebec, Atlantic, as well as NEIA competition and NCAA competition. So you think about that, pretty exciting opportunity, I think. And I think that to not at least explore it, you're not doing, I think, your part in helping these student athletes, get what we all believe they came to do, and that was represent Summer Fraser University on the gridiron while receiving, a top-notch education.
Yeah, so basically trying to create an atmosphere of continuous football year in, year out without having a gap, which seems to be where you're at right now.
Correct. And, not to get anybody confused or mixed up, we don't believe that an independent schedule is viable for, an extended period of time. We believe that it's a viable option now.
A stopgap measure.
Yes.
So what's kind of the big next step for this whole process? What do you what's kind of your the next goal for this process?
So essentially, well, that changes daily because it depends on what communications that are had and what kind of if you want to call it luck or success that we've had.
You can generalize if you want at this point.
Yeah, I'd say right now, we would love it if our injunction, so the injunction ruling has not come to fruition yet. So, there was reserve judgment in court last week by the judge. That announcement has not come to light yet.
Is there any idea when it will?
Well, our legal team said, they can take up to a few weeks, and they do understand the importance of the timely manner here with these student athletes having a sense of belonging and regaining their purpose. But we were told hopefully this week, early to midweek, but like I said, it could take a few weeks. So there's that we're if we get a phone call and news breaks tomorrow that it's been reinstated. So essentially what the injunction is, you could call it, for simple terms, call it a time machine. It'd be as is, where is the program was prior to April 4th announcement. Staff is back. We've already ensured we've got staff. We've ensured all the players are coming. We've got essentially mid 70 amount of student athletes plus another 20 recruits that would be coming to camp. So, we're in the 90s. We've competed, in some seasons in games with 60 some odd, student athletes. The other thing in which that we've done is we've submitted an application to speak to the Board of Governors with the university. And with that being said, there's a diverse group of individuals that sit on that board. And we will do our best to showcase the importance of sport and football at Summer Fraser University and have key stakeholders and alumni and players and spokespeople, speak to it as best as we can. And hopefully they have understanding. We have had some dialogue already with those individuals. And we've been as communicative as we can be with the university, being, the president and, a couple of different vice presidents of provost. And we've shared as much information as we can about where we believe there is a future. And, it just seems as if the university continues to come back with what I would say false information. And it's unfortunate because it almost looks as if at times that we're trying to make them look bad and or speak foul of them. And that's not at all what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure the truth is heard. And that's all we're wanting to do and make sure that we give the best opportunity possible.
It sounds to me like you just want to establish the fact that football at Simon Fraser University may not be central, but it's integral to a student life, whether it be the players or the people who love supporting the team.
Absolutely. And, to people that may not know or have not heard, the university just with the support of the Simon Fraser Student Society and the student populace, just built a $20 million stadium on campus. The program hasn't even competed an entire season due to COVID, since the building's inception. So, in addition to that, there was a $1.2 million locker room that was installed for football. And again, they have not had a complete season due to COVID. So these things were implemented and supported, yet they're not even being utilized. It's going to waste. And not to say that other student athletes and or varsity programs won't get the benefit of the stadium. It's the stadium's initial reasoning for being built was to make sure that it can withstand and withhold a football crowd. And we're not seeing that same amount of people attending other varsity sports.
And so when you're looking at the infrastructure that's there, and it's not like you're trying to build something from scratch. It's like this is a totally different situation. Um, when you look at also the other university and the other programs in Canada, how much support have you guys received from them throughout this process, or are they do you feel like they're taking a bit of a backseat because of the parties involved as well?
I think based on what I understand, there's been a lot of support from other university football programs. And I mean, you could say that through us telling you that we have the potential to schedule U Sport competition, with all different conferences. And, it's not easy for those schools to want to schedule a game against Simon Fraser. I mean, if they're booking us on their bye week, they want to make sure they're getting healthy for, their success. In addition to what else may be transpiring with their season, if they've got tough travel and maybe they don't want to travel, but they're willing to travel out west and we can accommodate. So I mean, there's support there, and then we've seen and heard of statements as well as letters that have been sent as well to our university. Can I say it's come from every program at this time? No, but I can tell you that there definitely has been fair bit of support. I would encourage and request that we continue to see more. And, I'm happy to share, what email and information I can provide with where people's voices and thoughts can be shared. And hopefully they're done respectfully. But it's been good to see. And I mean, you ask about the country, but I referenced grassroots football too. I'm seeing community football here, sharing our message and supporting and, talking about, youth that may have developed and become Simon Fraser student athletes, or they other sports, for example, are maybe having some connection to it. My so-and-so family member, was this person that developed and, grew and played. It's quite amazing when you start talking to people that you don't even know have a connection to football. And you discover through, just through having this normal conversation that they somehow are connected.
Absolutely. I feel as though, and this is a terrible analogy, but it's all I got. It's like the program, because of the way it operated, and where it operated, being BC, being a university in Canada and playing against teams in another country. You kind of are like an orphan that can't get invited to a Father's Day party. You know what I mean? Like
I can see your analogy right there. Yeah, I mean,
it must be tough, is what I'm saying. Is that you're already, your football is on an island, and then now that island you're trying to get back to the mainland, which is a terrible analogy considering you're in BC. It wasn't intended, but you get what I'm saying, and I hope the viewers understand what I'm saying. Is that you're kind of caught in between, because of your circumstance. And I could understand by David's question, and I'll help answer David's question a little bit, add something to his question. The U Sports isn't totally connected to you guys because of, to your school, because of the displacement of the school and then playing outside the country. And as you said most, straightforward and honestly that, you weren't considered in their schedule, and they're trying to fit you in the best they can when there aren't that many openings to do so. But isn't the most important thing that you survive this year however you can? And this is what it sounds like to me, is you're trying to survive as well as you can this year. And then in between this year and the following year, next year, you get yourself in youth sports, become part of the main schedule. And hopefully the football program changes to what it will be in the future, and realize that this is just a troublesome year that's a lily pad that you just need to survive, essentially.
Yeah, I'd say that analogy would work. I mean, uh, what I can say is when and hopefully we make our way through this, it's provided the opportunity for football to grow, in my opinion, across the country and be addressed and spoke to maybe with other demographics that have not really been touched with football. In addition, for Simon Fraser specifically, would garner more support and backing and make us stronger than we probably have ever been, providing that we have the consistency of which we hope to see after all the support that's coming through right now. But absolutely, to say that we need to just get through this and then find a place to belong next year, absolutely. And at the same time, too, these student athletes were not given the right opportunity to even get to be anywhere else. I mean, in April of this year, considering that they go to main camp in August, they've got 4 months to find another institution should they have chosen to do that. So, not to mention just playing football, how about finding a place that carries or offers what you're trying to study as a student athlete? That's very difficult as well. Or if you're a senior on the team, like you're not interested in transferring probably. So all of that stuff as well is just, it's ridiculous to think that the timing that they had with the announcement.
Well, hopefully it all works out in the right way, because I think you know we need more of this, more of this support, in this country and for this sport. Let's be honest here. I think you know it's been a bit of a tough time, especially through the pandemic, seeing what it's done to Canadian football. So, yeah, I mean, when I saw the story, I was very sick to my stomach, just to see how quickly they were trying to just sweep this on the rug. And I give you guys a lot of credit for stepping up, and doing the. I know it's not, you guys have probably busy lives, but the fact you guys are taking this opportunity to really push this forward shows the commitment you guys show to your school, and it's something I've always tried to do. I've always commended those who try to get back to their community. So a big kudos to you guys for that.
No, thank you very much. And there's a lot of people that aren't even recognized or go unnoted, just with all of that. We're just doing our due diligence as best as we can to help these student athletes and their families, and I appreciate that. But I think if we didn't step up, and try to find a path, I don't know how we would feel about ourselves if we hadn't.
Well, you have a lot of friends. You're fortunate to have an owner of your local team, the BC Lions, who is I'll call him the rejuvenator of the Canadian Football League in BC. He has done everything he can to raise or re-raise the profile of the BC Lions and football, and he's been there for you. One of the main reasons why we know this happened is because he put it on Twitter and talked about how much of a shame it was that this was happening, and if there's anything he can do to save it. So we thank the owner of the BC Lions. And I second what David said, not just you, but everyone else in the Alumni Association who obviously love football, love the school. It's a horrible situation to say goodbye to something that you love so much. And I know how hard it is, and I know how hard you'll fight. So, you've just got a reason, I'm sure once you guys get in that huddle and you make the plays that you got to make, I'm sure there's enough people who are sympathetic to the history, and Simon Fraser University is one of the most glorious, schools in the country. I know for me, the experimentation of playing against U.S. colleges was intriguing. It was risky. I mean, because you're basically making a commitment that must have been hard to keep. I can't imagine how difficult that was, but I applaud the fact that you guys were willing to experiment with something like that, regardless of how hard it might have been, and maybe that's part of the reason why you find yourself where you are now. And I hope you're not punished because you weren't here and you played in U.S. colleges. I hope that's not part of the equation. I don't think it is, and I hope football not only comes back to Simon Fraser University, but maybe gets better with an appreciation of its existence.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. For anyone that knows the history of the program, it was once known as the Factory. So it's, produced, I'm wearing a shirt here, Mr. Rick Klassen. We honor him and many other alumnus as well every year in our golf tournament, which is coming up on Friday, July 7th. So if anybody's out in BC and you want to, come swing some clubs with some prestigious alumni and supporters, we would definitely welcome that. And if it's not for golf, then we do have a banquet after as well. And this year we'll be honoring Mr. George Chaika, one of our alumnus as well, who's the vice president of BC Lions business operations. And just looking for any more continuous engagement and support that we can find to help the program. And I appreciate the opportunity here to speak to you, gentlemen.
It's our pleasure. And please, you have my email. Keep us informed, and we'll let people know what's going on as it moves forward. In fact, we'll have you on again if there's a big break, one that you'd like to share. If there's a big news break, we're more than glad to have you on to tell it straight to us so that we can hear it. And we'll be very proud to be a part of helping St. Francis University make it back. Simon Fraser, sorry. University.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll play the X-Men sometime too. That's all good.
Just my name. I'm Francis. I'm just thinking of myself. I'm being very selfish.
No worries. That's okay. Hey, you know what? I look forward to the opportunity. Thank you so much.
All right. Angie's gonna. If there's anything you want to add, it's okay, Angie. If there's anything you want to add, just ask Angie, and I'll pass it on. But you've got my email.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
That was Mark Bailey, Simon Fraser University Alumni Association. It really was a sad moment when we first heard about this, David. We had a bit of a conversation about it on one of our shows. I connected with them a long time ago before this happened, and I've been getting emails from them. And all of a sudden, I got an email them telling me what was going on, and I was shocked. But to be honest with you, there are two issues here that the fact that they weren't directly connected to youth sports, kind of like we went over, and if to review the conversation we just had with them, made them prone to a situation such as this, right? Where the school doesn't have a football program because the program has nowhere to go.
Yeah, I know, and that's the really tough part is, it was almost like the identity and the standing of that school being linked to the NCAA was always going to be a tough one. It was always a great thing to say, oh, we don't. The Canada had a school that was associated with the NCAA. That was a cool thing, but it's also like, okay, but what happens when that doesn't, if anything happens where they're not a part of it anymore, right? And so there's always that worry. But it also goes to show I don't like to use the word, but I'm going to use in this case also the fragile state of football in this country at the youth level, at the college, and things like that. But and this is not obviously not the issues that the students should be dealing. This is also the problems with these universities for not putting forth the proper infrastructure to really push this forward. Right? You're not seeing hockey teams. A lot of hockey teams in this country have this problem. You're not seeing, even in some cases, soccer. I follow when I went to formerly Ryerson University, Toronto Metropolitan University. There wasn't a football program there. I asked about it, and was given the reasons why, but they had no problem supporting a lot of the other programs. Basketball, soccer, hockey were kind of the big three at Ryerson at the time, and it just goes to show that there's a lot of work to be done from top to bottom to really support football, because this should never get to this point where a school should be losing a program like this. And when you take that away, we always forget that it's students that suffer the most, right? Some of them use that athletic ability to get scholarships, just like they do down in the States. How many more players, how many more students will now think, you know what, maybe I should really push to get my football standing in the States rather than trying to do it up here in Canada? That's what I get concerned about, because you're starting to see it slowly, where these private institutions are preparing these younger kids to not play up here in Canada, but is to push these guys to go into the States. You'll see some of these kids being drafted in the NFL draft. They went at a younger age to go to prep schools in the States because that's where they deemed to be the best way to get into professional football. When you think about it, that own you have your own league up here in Canada. That yeah, you're not going to make a lot of money, but you're going to make a living. And yet, you're starting to see the cracks sort of unfold here, where some of the more kids are going to those schools in the States. Yes, the infrastructure's there. I get that. But it also shows that why Canada has missed the mark in some ways when it comes to football. And I'm glad that, there's a strong enough support for Simon Fraser University to really push against what the administration is doing. And I'm glad the alumni are doing it, because that's the power the alumni have. Because guess what? Who's the one that gets the phone calls from the university when they need help and funding? It's usually the alumni that are one of the first. So if you're not pleasing your alumni, that's going to go a long way, into, it goes to show the power the alumni association have. So glad on them for supporting.
Absolutely. The one thing that, in conclusion, my final comment on this is I agree with you. The fragility of football in Canada is clear. Um, we are always talking about expansion, but we tend to ignore the elephant in the room, which is contraction. So, that's something that I worry about, and we should all worry about as football fans, that we don't allow it to happen. That we make sure that before something like this happens, there's a plan in place to ensure it doesn't happen. But I think, and I want to make this clear, I don't think anybody's to blame for this situation. I think it's a series of events, a perfect storm that just put St. Francis. Sorry, I keep wanting to say that. I don't know what it is about.
You're thinking
I'm
of
thinking of
CFX
Xavier.
University all
I'm
the way out
thinking.
to
I
the East
am.
Coast.
I keep doing that. It's Simon Fraser University. I'm so egotistical. It's my name, so that's why I keep saying it. I think that's the reason. But the point I'm trying to make, and I'm sorry if I lost the thread there. I apologize. Um, is that we need to make sure that football gets every chance to exist. This situation happened because it was a perfect storm. I don't think this is something to hang our hats on and go, "Oh, no, this is a trend." I think really in this case, they weren't playing in U Sports. U Sports wasn't ready to pick them up at the drop of a hat, right? And it was probably too difficult for the university to put this together or believe that it could be put together. Um, but the alumni is stepping up, and I think the football program, and let's not forget the coaches and the players that are there that can put immediate pressure on the school for whatever that's worth. So, I believe in this program. I believe it will survive. It's just going to be a tough road for them. That's all.
Yeah, no, it is. And you just hope that this sort of effort to get the program back in good standing also gives them the desire and push to really support the school when the program's there, right? Because the one thing that the school is going to try to argue is that, okay, we're going to get the program back, but how are we going to ensure that this program is going to continue to have its good standing,
Yeah,
right?
it's being viable. It has to be viable, right?
Well, my question here is, and forgive me if I've missed it, but where's the Canadian Football League in all this?
Well, apparently, I mean, he said that Mark did say that the commissioner was behind them, and I know there was lots of talk. I know there was lots of support. There was a lot of, oh my God, what? No, it's impossible. You can't do that. So a lot of people are throwing words, that are supportive, but there might be more than words necessary. If I understand your implication.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, and I mean, you did mention I should commend the BC Lions. They have been throwing their support behind the school. That's what good ownership in a city that, good ownership for a professional team does, is ensuring that the grassroots don't get neglected. So I should also mention the BC Lions deserve a lot of credit for what they've done as well.
I don't want to leave out a very important issue that's been put out there by the league. They, in their infinite wisdom, and I trust their wisdom, and the CFL has been very successful with rule changes. Two things I want to mention: single tickets are up for sale. So you call if you contact your team or go on to the CFL.ca. There are single tickets are going on sale now. So the season tickets have had their shot. Now filling in all the gaps. If you're interested in trying out the Canadian Football League, or you don't have time to go to every game, single tickets are available now. I just saw this just now while we were doing all this, and it says here the Canadian Football League made an announcement that rules receive fine tuning for the 2023 season. Have you had a chance to look at this?
You brought it up, and I was just pulling it up myself.
Yeah, this came in today. Just it's hot off the presses.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the league is, I would say, out of all the leagues, I think the CFL has done a pretty good job of recognizing which rules should be changed. So um
Has there been a bad change in your mind? I don't think there's been a bad change. We could argue about them, but I don't think there's been a bad change.
I don't think so. I don't think there's been a bad change. Now it's funny because the most significant one is when a team is flagged for holding the ball while the ball is in their end zone. So previously, teams could choose to only accept or decline the penalty, though they cannot opt for safety. So like there's quite a few. So it's weird how they're trying to now. I don't know how that's going to really impact a lot of situations, but the CFL is clearly seeing there's ways to tweak the game. Um, I
Well,
think and it's
let's
a
read
big
them.
part of safety, player
Read
safety.
the first one. Okay, I'll read the first one.
Yeah.
The 2023 ratified rule changes, and folks, if you're watching this, we're going to learn and we're going to figure this out together live
Yep.
and right now. This is going to be candid, frank, and live. The requirement of the ball to be touched prior to ruling a rouge on a kickoff has been removed. The change aligns the rouge rule on kickoffs with all other types of kick plays. So that means there's going to be uniformity in that situation.
Well, I mean that's important, right? Player safety has always been the big one, but it's also just making sure things are not black and white, right? Like you want to make sure things are taken care of properly there. In that regard, yeah. So I think that one's I think it just, you want everything to be the same. I think that's important. You want everything to kind of be the same, and I think that's fine that they did that.
The next one I like as well is safety has been added to the options for holding in the team's goal area. In other words, if you commit a foul, holding foul,
So that's what I
the
was
other
trying to explain, but you're
yeah,
explaining a lot better.
that's it. So it's another option. You can go for a save. You can call it a safety and go from there. You want to do the defensive formation?
Yeah. So the CFL is illegal for a player authorized member of teams. Sorry, nope, that's another one. I'm trying
The
to find.
number of players within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage on either side of the long snapper has been restricted to a maximum of 6 players at the snap. This restriction does not apply if the offense lines up in an unbalanced line or if an offensive player moves or motions from the initial position. This restriction only applies to field goal and kicked convert attempts. The change is in the spirit player safety to avoid grossly overloading the defensive line on the side of the long snapper.
Yeah.
So You're just trying to keep players safe. This is a safety rule.
That's a safety rule.
Well,
Okay.
you and I are never going to argue about these the ones that
No,
are safer.
not
You got
really. Yeah.
now. This one here is interesting. Avoidable contact with an official. Go ahead. You
Yeah,
take
it
this
should
one.
be illegal for a player, an authorized member of the team bench area. So there's again, only certain people are allowed around the bench area for a CFL game to make avoidable contact with an official. So basically, anything that they deem to now this is where the gray area comes in, deemed to be avoidable contact. So again, this is trying to keep things safe on the sidelines. Officials cannot properly officiate game if their attention is being diverted to the sidelines in hopes of avoiding collision or injury. When official is contacted by a player or unauthorized member of a
Here we
team,
go.
officials will be permitted to check with the command center to assist with the judgment as to whether the contact was avoidable, and if so, a 10-yard objectionable conduct will be applied. This change will allow officiating staff to call these actions confidently with command center help. It will also bring much needed attention to the requirement of providing a safe workplace for officials. So basically, and we already
If
know
you
that.
remember last year, there was a player who wasn't in uniform on the sidelines that had contact, and it created a big brouhaha, and it was an issue. This, I think, is a reaction to that to ensure that players who are not playing are clearly not close to where an official might end up, and that is along the boundary, right? So
Mhm.
this is something because of something that happened, and it's okay. Like people might say, well, now you're just reacting to something. Well, you have to. When a situation happens, that's when you have to realize that it could happen again, and now you've got to correct that issue, and they have, and it's not. This isn't a big. This doesn't affect the game hardly at all. What it does affect is the safety of the officials, and this clearly says that, and that's what this is an attempt to do. This is another rule that, again, if it's safety of the official, you're not going to get an argument from me, and I hope it works out. And there's nothing there really much that could go wrong anyway, because this is about the official and about the players on the bench who shouldn't be a part of the game.
Mhm. Yeah, I know, and you don't want the officials deserve the right to make sure that they're don't have to worry about that in a game.
Another one is move the drive start position up 5 yards in additional scenarios. So it was moved ahead for various reasons. In Section 5A, if a kicked ball strikes the goalpost assembly in flight, and when Team B intercepts the ball or recovers a fumble in their own area, the next point of scrimmage will be the 30-yard line.
Instead of the
So
25.
the dead ball thing, Section 5B, penalty applications with fouls in the goal area will be applied for 30 or 15-yard line, dependent upon the foul. Section 6C, when a penalty or ruling awards possession of the ball to the opponent, the point of possession will move the ball up 5 yards. So that helps with offense. These changes align the drive start adjustment made in the 2022 with other scenarios. So this is an extension of those rules that they added last year. Probably, this basically tightens things up a little bit.
And then obviously the final one here: no player will be allowed to wear 0 or 00. Sorry to
Okay.
break anyone's hearts about that one, but it's just to help with the fact that it's hard to keep track of players who wear 0 and 00. Just
I,
makes it a
I
little
get
bit
it.
tough. Just a little bit.
I give you the last word.
Great conversation with Mark there. I hope a lot of people got educated by what's going on here. I think it's a very important discussion, so great to have that, and hopefully we'll have some more talk about football on the field with the CFL coming soon.
Absolutely. We got our accreditation. They're telling us it started. All the stuff's starting to happen. Rookie camp, they're talking about that. Training camp should follow shortly. We had the draft, so we're well on our way, folks. It's May again, and used to say, is it June yet? Well, we don't wait till June anymore. Is it May yet? Guess what? It is. Thanks for doing this, David.
Thank you, Frank.
For David Morassutti, I'm Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching CFL Talk, seen live on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For CFL Talk news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to check out Candid Frank Stanisci, the YouTube channel, for Candid Frank Stanisci 1030. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.